Me here, the engine here, I've never heard a better weight distribution on a crappy old jalopy machine like this. Let us see here. Move my really heavy, freaking world's heaviest tripod. So, let's just mock this up right here, and it's actually back further than it would be by a few inches, because I do want to also mount the transmission back as far as I can. I think I'm going to extend the rear of this frame. A little bit of fuel in there still. Okay, what's behind box number 1? Ooh, I can smell what's behind box number 1 already. Yes. There we... Oh, that smells so good. Look at that. Got air in them and everything. Now that is a hot rod tractor wheel right there for the front. So this is a 480 by 12 tire. And look at that. Is that an old school hot rod tire or what? In mini scale old school hot rod tire. I love the way that looks. 480 by 12, so it's a 12-inch wheel, just like those wheels. The same size wheel, 5 on 4.5 bolt pattern. It's just a trailer wheel, obviously. But it just makes so much sense. High speed road going, and I think it'll still be good off-road because frankly these are the fronts. So I have a set of rears on the way, 530 by 12s. So they're a bit bigger for the they'll be a bit bigger on the rear. Still a really smooth road style tread pattern, which is all right because I'd like to be able to go and do donuts and burnouts and all kinds of crazy stuff. And I also just really, I always wanted that kind of look to this thing, you know, long look with real like skinny kind of hot rod looking wheels. Now, how big are they compared to what was on there before? They look a little bit taller, which is good. They're only a little bit taller. But again, that's all right because what I have on there right now, those off-road ones, I won't even be able to steer all the way with those. Yeah. Plus, I think they look kind of funny. But it's going to be hard to get an idea of really how it's going to look because I don't have the rears yet. And I'm already a little bit like, they're so small. They're not really quite, you know, I almost wish I never put these on just because these are now so big. You're going to be like, put those off-road wheels back on there. I don't know. Like I said, you know, whether it's on this machine or if I can guarantee you there's going to be another machine. There's so many parts here and I'm already like so excited about making these things again. Like there will be something with those big off-road tires on it. It might just not be this one. Also, I may build the other one and it may be the one with the trailer wheels on it, and then this one might just go back to being the off-road. In fact, more than likely that's what I'm going to end up doing. Probably going to build this one out right now with the trailer wheels on it, go down the road, and then I'm going to start building the other machine, making it a really nice, because you know, either way it's going to be a stiffer, better chassis. So the other machine will probably turn into the road machine, and this will end up going back into off-road mode, as it, you know, is kind of just a crappy chassis. So let's put those front wheels on there and see how it looks. All right, got the hub on there. So just to say what's going on here, this is how this has been forever and has always worked and never killed me. There's a bolt welded to the original J spindle to extend it and allow for the wheels to be spaced out and bolted on. And I've always just had a nut, a lock nut, and then a jam nut. But I am going to go ahead, there's plenty of extra thread here. I'm going to end up going and probably drilling that if it'll drill, just to put a cotter pin in it. But I'll be honest, I really don't think I need to, because I've driven this thing for a long, long time and never had those come loose. And it's actually the same at the rear. So the axles at the rear are significantly extended, because you wouldn't have, like, forget about the fact that I got a spacer on here. This would be all the way back to here. Like, you would never have it be able to go that far out. So the axles have been extended same way, bolts welded to them, and then nut and jam nut. Never had that come loose, so nothing that concerns me. If you don't like it, well, go ahead and put a comment in the comment section. I'd like to hear your opinion, but well, I don't know. I gotta admit, it looks kind of funny. But it doesn't have the rears on it yet, so it looks kind of cool from that angle. Alright, well, I've been staring at this thing forever. I put the other wheels on just to get an idea, but the original ones back on just to get an idea of where I'm going and where I want to end up. Kind of almost has like a doodle bug look to it now. You know, like an old, like a Model T or Model A doodle bug. A doodle bug, which is like a, kind of like a homemade tractor that people used to do back in the day with Model Ts and Model As. But anyway, I'm not going for doodle bug or tractor. I'm going for hot rod Grand Prix car type deal. So, look at that. That's weight distribution right there. You see how far back the engine is? And all that is simply, and this has been like this forever, this is nothing new, but the axle is mounted directly to the front of the frame. No pivot. There you have an equal length 2-to-1 header with the finest of welds. And of course the rest is missing. Now, what I'm after here is I was just working on it, and I says, how can I not be showing any of this? This is video content right here. So the battery had always been mounted right there, with the battery just sat on that. There was a thing underneath this, and actually here's the thing. That's why I'm telling you this. This is strictly here to mount the battery. Under is the steering box, but this bracket, which was just some, I didn't like actually, well, I guess I welded that back part on, but these pieces, these are just some random scraps that I had. Spacers, bolts at the front. The flashlight's not cutting it, is it? Just gotta stay out of the shad. Or don't be a shad. Shadow. Don't be a bloody shadow, mate. So, we're getting rid of that. But here's where the real magic has happened. So went ahead and chopped I didn't actually shorten it. I didn't chop the chassis off. That's actually the back of the chassis right there. There was a cap with the tow hitch on it, so it kind of came back like another inch or so. But the rear of the chassis on these is just this really thin stamped. The whole thing is a stamped steel pressing, but the back is particularly weak. And years ago I had actually done this 1x1 here, and then there was one in the middle there somewhere. But I went ahead and I just chopped this frame down. But here's how I did this really easily. Man, that thing looks sick just open like that. Those front wheels are really doing it for me now. But so what I'm getting at is, there was a real easy way I did this. And if you have a Craftsman LT chassis, like this is around a year 2000 LT 2000 chassis, this will apply to you. A lot of different chassis, so whatever you have, you have. But there's a front transmission mount, transaxle mount, that, you know, it's located to the frame, as you can see there, with those 4 bolts. And the rear trans mount was also located with the same pattern, the same exact pattern of bolts. So what that means is I was able to, and also the rear trans mounts, they unbolt. They just simply unbolt, like I said, with those 2 bolts from that part of the frame. So I unbolted those and the fronts, and I shifted, I just rolled the whole entire rolling axle right back so that the front mount bolted into where the rear mount used to go. And that got me square, and I actually did end up measuring from one wheel to, from like the axle to the front, to the front axle, just to see if it was, because who knows if these lawnmowers are even perfectly straight anyway. And actually, yeah, it's right there. It's freaking perfect. And that now gives me 6.5 inches of extra wheelbase. Again, the axle mounted on the front, which was already like that, added 10 inches to the overall wheelbase. Again, that would have mounted right there, and it would have pivoted. Now it's straight, solid mounted. 10 inches extra at the front, 6.5 inches added to the rear. The steering is obviously not hooked up right now. It's just hanging there. I have to redo. I'm going to redo something with the steering, because now that I've done this, and now the chassis is quite a bit. It's probably another 3 inches dropped on the seat. So the steering wheel, which used to be way up, I'm going to end up having it down more and possibly closer to the dash. I'm not going to be sitting all the way at the back. I'm going to be basically sitting in the exact same spot so that the rear axle is just behind. And then another beautiful thing, so going back to the battery, that was there. I had put these on there. Also, check this out. Just like a car, just like anything, the battery sits on there for years and then it rusts things out. But, and the other piece that was under there was even rustier. So this I'm getting rid of in favor of having foot room. And I'm going to have it so that the clutch is actually inside, not outside. And then as well as the throttle pedal. And my goal is to have my feet inside on that chassis. I might extend it a little bit, but I really want to keep the skinny profile of the whole, vibe of it. And of course the hood and the grill and everything are going back on. And the exhaust will go back up. I may redo the exhaust at some point, but the way that it was before, up and over the axle, that still will bolt right on because of how I had it set up to where it bolted into those rear trans axle mounts. Yeah, so this is, and here's the other thing, this is just actually just metal I had laying around, so that was a free deal right there. Now I did run out of welding wire, so that cost some money, but I'm gonna have to go get that tomorrow and continue where I left off. The welds, I can't say that I'm a great welder. They're not gonna be pretty, but they are good, hot, functional, and that's not, I'm gonna actually go ahead and continue. I'm actually gonna weld all that on that really thin part. That's just where it is. It actually came out, it's really, I'm actually pleased with it, because like up here, this is where the chassis really becomes like much better, like kind of goes over, and I was able to tie it in really nicely. And there's a few holes along here that I think I'm going to plug weld it to as well. But again, it's that 1x1 that I put in there years ago, and it's not quite lined up. There's a little gap under there, but I am going to tie that in with those. Probably just, well, it depends on where the belt ends up too, because obviously that, and the transmission and the chassis, everything is still, the ride height has not changed, because, well, basically you can't change the ride height anyway, because the, with the transaxle, the line to the belt has to be able to go straight up to the engine, so you can't affect the actual ride height of the chassis. Not without major modification, obviously. Well, I don't know if you'd consider that major modification. I guess it kind of is. But I just have this material laying around. Some nice square. I don't even know what it came off of. And it's a little on the thin side, but it's good stuff. It's good, strong material. It seems fine. I like it. And it'll work. And, oh, so here we go. Check this out. So I'm getting rid of the battery box so that I could put my feet in. Of course, my goal is to have, so I'm going to have the hood and the grill and everything back on it. And I'm trying to kind of figure out how I can make it a full-bodied vehicle. Meaning I'm sitting in it rather than just on it. My feet are in, so you know how the hood is kind of, the grill goes up right there and the hood goes back to the dashboard right there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to remake the lower half of that support so that it's actually on the outside perimeter of the chassis. And then my legs, which, because I can already basically put my legs and my feet right kind of in it. It's just that the clutch is on the outside, so I'm going to change that so where it's on the inside. And then I want to figure something out at the back. Now, I'm not talking about, it doesn't necessarily have to be I'm completely inside of it, but more or less like, you know, maybe a little tucked down piece here, so where you can kind of easily crawl over it and in, and the back is kind of like just, the seat is kind of like shrouded off to where it looks clean, but I don't know what I'm going to do that. I don't know what kind of material, like, I don't know, literally, I just want to be able to repurpose things. I was looking at my old wheelbarrow, in fact, thinking about trying to repurpose it as a rear body on this, but we'll see where that goes. So, yeah, I figured I'd give the update, and unfortunately I didn't get any footage of actually doing this. I don't know why. I just, like, when I get into actually working on it and when I actually finally like saw the vision of where I was going, because by the way, I did something really cheesy and not good at first, welded some metal in there, and then I was like, this is garbage, and I cut it out, and I basically just did that whole thing. And then so check this out too, where is it? So now that I'm getting rid of the whole idea is with that battery relocation situation is that I have this Shore-Eye battery. Now, it's not that small. It's still kind of a large piece, but it can be mounted any which way. But the best part is, like I said, I'm not going to be sitting on top of the rear axle anymore. So now I'll have room, and there's the transaxle. So the pulley, even if it's a 5-inch, I'll have plenty of room, I think. More or less, I'm going to set it up like that. There's going to be just at the bottom, you know, I'll have it so that there's a nice little battery tray right there. And maybe make something to cover it, like have like an enclosed area for it, you know, an enclosed cover for it. And more or less the seat will be right in front of that. And like I said, I might have at some point some sort of body completely surrounding the back, you know, like, and yeah, and I have a video, well, I have a video in mind that I want to talk about pre-war Grand Prix cars and my inspiration, how they were originally my inspiration for this years ago when I first built it, and mainly the exhaust, the axle being out in front, and even the proportions of the body, the axle out in front with the grille and the kind of hot rod look to it. But now, with the trailer wheels and tires, which at first I was kind of like on the fence over, I'm thinking I'm seeing it. I didn't get the 530 12s in yet, but those should be here, I'm hoping tomorrow. And this thing is really, it's getting closer to my vision of hot rod meets pre-war Grand Prix car. And you're going to see what I mean. I have a really cool book that I've had since I was a kid that I want to show. Other than that, I mean, that's about it. I'm probably going to... Oh, and if you're really interested in... Well, man, there's not as much room as I thought there. Well, basically what I'm getting at is I got a really... hoping really great idea. We'll see, I guess. I have an idea for a budget brake setup, and I mean the parts are already on the way, so we're gonna have a dual, you know, hopefully I can make this work. I mean, I'm gonna make it work regardless. I thought when I bought the parts, more or less, I was like, oh, this is gonna be easy, but now that I'm looking at it, there might be a little bit more involved than I'm thinking of, strictly because of, well, a few factors, and we'll get to that when we get to that, but look for that coming up, and there will be more diesel truck content as well, because, you know, I don't have a whole lot of viewers just yet, and frankly, I can't tell what's more popular, so I'm just doing what I like right now. I'm enjoying building this thing, and That's a video. Now, is that a video or not? Because you know what? It's frankly nothing. It's just me talking about it and showing it. Some people like that, right? It's just an update, but it's nighttime, and you can't see that when I was freaking 10 years ago or whatever the hell it was I built that thing, welds ain't pretty. But I'm going to take that, and I'm going to just clean those welds up. It used to be painted black. Now it's rust. You can't see that because it's nighttime. That is one benefit about doing it at night, right? Oh, man, that is so cool. And when we look at that book with the pre-war Grand Prix cars coming up next time, or whenever it may be, you're going to understand exactly where I was going with this and where it is going. But I can't get over that freaking layout. I mean, that tells you everything you need to know right there. Look at that. The freaking engine is completely behind the front axle. And now, while I was sitting on top of the rear axle, which used to be about here, it's now a 6.5-inch increase in wheelbase. And I'm going to be sitting just in front of the axle. So we're talking about me here, the engine here. I've never heard a better weight distribution on a crappy old jalopy machine like this. Maybe it won't be any different, but it'll freaking be fun as hell. And look forward to some awesome back road ripping on this thing. It may look pretty far off into pieces, but don't worry, there's not too much work ahead. This thing's going to be ripping again, and look forward to it. Here, I'm going to say it for the first time ever, and I'm not going to say it on camera. I'm just going to be off to the back of the camera. Like, subscribe, share, and comment, and subscribe. This is Gary from Diesel Fuel Network. Thank you for watching, even though nothing happened in this video, and I'll see you next time.